Let's see. So in the 90s, I was born in 1980. That means like everything that happened to me happened in the 90s. It means I turned 10 in 1990 and 20 in the year 2000. So that's like the formative era of one's life. That means every formative experience I had happened to me. So I'm going to tell you guys about how I lost my virginity. Thank you very much. A reaction that the event itself didn't get. Lost my virginity in 1998. First thing I should tell you, I never had a sex talk. I never did. My father is the least sexual person I've ever met in my entire life. I sometimes wonder if I'm a virgin birth. It's inconceivable to me that that man has had sex. Inconceivable. The closest I ever got to a sex talk, this is completely true. One day I was sitting in my kitchen and my mom was there. And she, out of nowhere, she goes, "So, your brother's getting older?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she goes, "Sometimes I find stuff in his sheets." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "What do you do?" And she goes, I just take the sheet, I throw the sheets in the washing machine." And then she got up and ran. She ran out of the room. That was the closest I ever had. So all I knew about sex was like, my mother can't ever find out about it. It shames my mother. That's all I knew about it. So here's a piece of advice I'll give you. If you're a lady and you plan on having sex with a nerd, and that nerd is a virgin, if you plan on taking a nerd's virginity, don't do what my girlfriend at the time did. She's a very nice person, and everything that ever went wrong in that relationship was my fault. But here's what she did. She said to me, "I've decided I want you to be the one. I think we should have sex a week from Saturday." It was a horrible thing to do to a nerd. It was by far the worst week of my entire life, waiting for that Saturday. By far, I can't point to a worse week that I ever personally had. Because if you're a nerd, like, I'm clearly a very nerdy guy, but nerds, you're not just a nerd because you like wear glasses. Like, you're a nerd because you are obsessive about information, I think. Like, you're not a nerd about the X-Men if you just like saw the movies and read a bunch of the comic books. Like, you're a nerd about the X-Men if you read like X Factor, or if you like bought the Fallen Angels limited series, or if you like read the Excalibur, the British one, and you were like, "Why'd they stick Nightcrawler and Kitty Pryde in England, man? Captain Britain's not even a mutant." You know what I mean? Like, that's when you're a nerd. Like, and the guy who just hooted, we'll talk after the show, man. That's when you're a nerd. Like, we're obsessed with information. So I found out I was gonna have sex for the first time ever a week before it fucking happened. Awful. I first of all, I sat on the internet. This is pre-Google. I was on like Alta Vista, looking up, like, typing it like a 17-year-old kid, like, cunnilingus techniques, you know what I mean? Just like horrible. And then I just spent about 48 hours of that week was spent just tirelessly convincing myself that I was gonna get every STD that existed. Just learning. That's how you want to lead up to your first sexual experience, right? Reading about every STD. That's what I did. But midweek hit, and I was like, I gotta get ready. I have to buy condoms. And there's no way to describe how much, when I was 17, I looked roughly like I was 11 years old. I was in over my head with all of this. I got in my mom's car and I drove to the pharmacy that I usually went to in town, but my girlfriend's name was Teresa, and I was like, I got to the parking lot of the pharmacy, I was like, I can't buy them here. Her parents probably shop here too, and if her father sees his daughter's boyfriend buying condoms, he will kill me. And that's not, I know a lot of people would say like, "Oh, he'll kill me." This man killed people. The first time I met this man, the first time I met my girlfriend's father, the first time I met him, I went to their house for dinner, and Teresa and her mom, Teresa's like, "We're gonna go make the food, maybe you guys can get to know each other." She leaves me in a room with her dad. The first words out of his mouth, he was much older. He had a previous marriage and then remarried a much younger woman. He served in World War II, and he looked at me. The first thing this man ever said to me, he said, "Did Teresa tell you that I have a job at a VCR company?" And I was like, "Yeah, she's mentioned that." And he goes, "I find it kind of funny. I used to kill those people, and now I work for them." And then we sat in silence. For roughly half an hour while I just like nodded my head for 30 minutes wondering how you respond to an old man's revelation that he has murdered. He was killed in the name of our country. It was totally, so I was like, yeah, I can't, that was justified. I can't shop at this pharmacy. And then I went to one across town, and then it got a little sillier because I was like, just convinced of any reason I could not to. I remember at one point being in the parking lot of another pharmacy thinking to myself, well, my mom dated a guy who divorced a woman. My mom, like, anything, I was like, my mom, if this fucking guy who lives near here sees me, he might conceivably tell my mom and would drive away, just anything I could find. So I wound up driving a few towns away. I wound up driving to a different town, and I found a path mark that had a pharmacy, and it was in an abandoned train station. I grew up in New Jersey where things like that are not uncommon, where you'll just have a food store in an abandoned train station. So I was like, no one I know is gonna be in a pathmark pharmacy underneath a train station at night. Didn't make sense. So I went in there, went into the pharmacy, and I just started, I wish I was exaggerating, but there were a few people shopping in the pharmacy, so I just started like tirelessly pacing around the border. And then like if this was the rack of condoms up front, I would just go, and then keep walking. I just kept walking. And everybody's kind of looking at me like, who's this fucking weird little junior high kid running laps? Like, what's going on? But eventually everybody left the store, and it was just me, and there were two women working there, and I ran up and I grabbed, I'll never forget, a box of Trojans. They were in a blue box, spermicidal lubricant. Grabbed that, because I remembered that from health class. Threw them on the counter and put my money down and just like looked down. And then the woman slid the paper bag back to me with my change. And I put it in my pocket, and I turned around and I went to get out of there. And I was like, all right, thank God that went smooth. Except, the workers didn't factor in that I was like, I had such a massive adrenaline rush that my senses were a little heightened, you know? So they didn't realize I could still hear them. When I was exiting the pharmacy back into that area, you know how it's like the area with the flowers right outside the pharmacy? Just as I stepped over the border, I heard one of the workers turn to the other and say, "He ain't ready." And I ran. I just started running. And I also started crying while I was running. Just ran to my car crying and got in my car and just cried, holding these condoms, crying. Because she was correct. She was totally correct. I was not ready. He ain't ready. She was right. He ain't ready. He still kind of ain't ready. Every time it happens, he still kind of ain't ready. So I went home and went to my basement at my parents' house. It's pretty late, so they were in bed. And I was trying to be smart about it. So I had 3 condoms. So I was like, I know I need 1 for the act. I need 1 in case something goes wrong, if it breaks or whatever. So I was like, that gives me the 3rd one. I'm gonna practice. So I got the condom out, and I practiced putting it on, which I thought was a responsible thing to do. That's not too weird. What is weird is that I took that condom, wrapped it in toilet paper, went to the bathroom in my basement, opened the door, and put it in the corner, and then put a bunch of shit in front of it. And then periodically, over the next 2 or 3 days, I would remove it and put it back on. Bad, very bad. I still don't understand how I didn't get myself some sort of horrible skin disease. How my first sexual experience was not just riddled with fucking... Did someone just audibly say, "That is so gross"? Someone just said that. While I was already copping to it, someone felt it necessary to further verbalize how gross it was. Even as I admitted it, even as I said that, heard your reaction, and rushed to try to head off the reaction at the pass, someone still felt like they needed to shout, "That is so gross." I won't dispute your point, ma'am. I won't dispute it at all. You're correct. I'm not saying what I did was right or logical or even sanitary. I won't say any of those things. But I did it because I was panicking and I was a kid. So that happened. I practiced, freaking myself out. And then Saturday finally came. And Teresa came over and I chilled out. She had that effect on me. I can be a very neurotic person, but she always could make me relax. And I realized she thought a lot about it and that it was the right thing to do. She's the right person. She made me feel good. And then I lost my virginity in what has to be the most suburban way possible. We went swimming in my above-ground pool in the backyard, and we fooled around a little bit. And then we went inside, and on a checker patterned couch in a faux pine paneled basement under the romantic glow of a 20-gallon aquarium, I lost my virginity on a couch. And it was fine, it went well, and then I got up, I went back to that same bathroom where I'd been hiding my practice condom, and I took the condom off the condom, to be fair, the practice did pay off, everything went well, but then I left and she was like, "That was really nice," and I was like, I'm such a I'm still an idiot. I was like, "Do you know you're bleeding?" Like, and she's like, "Shut up, just shut up." She's like, "Shut up, I'll take care of it." So then she went to the bathroom, and I went to the garbage can in the corner and took the condom and its wrapper, and stuffed them inside a can of, I'll never forget, Diet Dr. Pepper. And then I crushed the can and stuffed it all the way at the bottom of the garbage can and thought to myself, roughly 6 minutes after having sex for the first time, thought in my head, my mother will never find it there. That was what I was thinking about. So that was the loss of my virginity. Thank you. And the song I'm gonna sing tonight, this is genuine, is the song that I put on the mixtape for this girl before we ever started dating. And this is the song that she liked the most off of it. So I think it's the one that probably helped get me laid for the first time more than any other song. I would also have to think, if we're talking about the 90s, I would have to imagine this band probably was on more mixtapes in the 90s, perhaps more than any other band that I can think of between all their songs. So let's go ahead and I'll try to follow up. I had the time of my life.
You practiced!
El Scorcho! Goddamn, you have Japanese girls. You do it to me every time. Oh, the redhead said you shred the cello, and I'm jello, baby. But you won't talk, won't look, won't think of me. I'm the epitome of public enemy. Why you wanna go and do me like that? Come down on the street and dance with me. I'm alive like you, so please, hello, I'm here, I'm waiting. I think I'd be good for you, and you'd be good for me. I asked you to go to the Green Day concert. You never heard of them. Oh, cool as that. So I went to your room and wrote your diary. Watching grunge leg drop New Jack through a press table. And then my heart stopped listening to Cho-Cho Sam. Fall in love all over again. I'm alive like you, so please, hello, I'm here, I'm waiting. I think I'd be good for you, and you'd be good for me. How stupid is it? I can't talk about it. I gotta sing about it and make a record of my heart. Won't you give me a minute? Just come up to me and say hello. How stupid is it? For all I know, you want me to. Or maybe you just don't know what to do. Maybe you're scared to say I'm falling for you. Wish I could get my head out of the sand, 'cause I think we'd make a good team, and you would keep my fingernails clean. But that's just a stupid dream that I won't realize, 'cause I can't even look in your eyes without shaking, and I ain't faking. I'll bring home the turkey if you bring home the bacon. I'm alive like you, so please, hello, I'm here, I'm waiting. That's awesome that you did that, that's so cool. I think I'd be good for you, and you be good for me. I'm alive like you. I'm alive like you. I think I'd be good for you, and you be good for me. Thank you guys very much.